I'm back, hello! I'm talking about synesthesia today. So, there's a subreddit for this, right? There's a small community on TikTok, there's like Facebook groups, but on YouTube it's basically just TED Talks and science videos, medical videos. I was really disappointed when I discovered this, and I figure other synesthetes probably will be too. We deserve to have content that we can relate to outside of educational videos, so I'm here to help provide that. So firstly, a quick rundown of what synesthesia actually is. In simplified terms, it's basically when senses that don't usually interact get combined. It's like wires crossing. Input from one sense causes an output in a different sense. For example, hearing a sound can cause a visual result in the form of like shapes, colors, textures, whatever. I think there's like 80 different kinds of synesthesia, although some of them fall under the category of ideasthesia, which is just more concept-driven instead of sense-driven, although they both have a sensory result. An example of this one would be emotions having colors. I myself have 11 different kinds of synesthesia that I know of so far, which isn't out of the ordinary at all. I have concept color, also known as colored sequence. I have auditory visual, I have ticker tape, I have spatial sequence, I have number form, I have time units color, I have emotion color, I have person color, olfactory visual, gustatory visual, and tactile visual, which has a subcategory pain vision. I'll be making a separate video for each of these kinds, so this first one is about concept color, also known as colored sequence. While this does fall under the general umbrella of synesthesia, it's more accurate to categorize it as ideasthesia because the inducer isn't one of the traditional five senses. Examples of concept color would be letters and numbers, which I'll come back to, geometric shapes, concepts of left and right, continents and countries, languages, and school subjects. And a lot of people associate colors with school subjects, which doesn't necessarily mean that you have synesthesia. There is a chance that you do, but it's possible that you associate school subjects with certain colors because there are things of that color that you associate with that subject, or because you saw that subject represented in that color when you were little, but it's possible that you do have synesthesia. So, back to letters and numbers, right? They're also called graphemes. This specific subcategory of concept color is called Grapheme-Color synesthesia, and it is by far the most common kind of synesthesia. I think around 64% of synesthetes have it. I was in middle school when I first learned that not everybody sees letters and numbers as having their own inherent colors. Because this had been my experience for my whole life, I basically just assumed everybody was the same way. I had arguments with my siblings about things like what color the number 3 was. As it turns out, those siblings also have synesthesia. In my alphabet, A is red, B is blue, C is a sandy yellow, and so on. Here's my alphabet. Z is green, I just ran out of space. And the letters really did not need to be stylized, I just did that for fun. So here, in a significantly simpler format, is my alphabet compared to my brother's alphabet, and then the alphabets of a few people from the subreddit r/synesthesia. As you can see, even among people with the exact same kind of synesthesia, their synesthetic perceptions are not the same. Not only do the outputs themselves vary between synesthetes, they also vary in the way they're perceived. There's two different kinds of synesthetes, right? There are associators and there are projectors. Associators see the output in their mind's eye, so to speak, while projectors actually see it in their line of vision. For grapheme-color synesthesia, this means that associators would see the letters and numbers in color in their heads, while projectors would see it more like a tinted film over real life, as it's been explained to me. I'm an associator. Now, just because the colors don't happen in my actual line of vision doesn't mean that I'm making them up or pretending for fun or anything like that. My synesthesia is still very real, and it affects my life in real, tangible ways. My best example of this for grapheme-color synesthesia is that I can't take math tests on colored paper at all. In my freshman year of high school, my math teacher gave us a test on blue paper, and I failed it. I got like a 50%. I had never taken a math test on colored paper before, so I didn't know it would be any kind of problem. It was a problem. The issue is that my understanding of numbers is inherently intertwined with the fact that they have specific colors. I remember formulas based on color combinations, I learned strategies based on color patterns, and my whole life this has been based on numbers on a white paper. That was the background all of my colors were based on. So when all of a sudden the numbers are on a blue background, it's kind of disorienting. It's like those tests where the word red will be in blue font, and you have to name the color it's in and not the color it's saying. So I explained to my teacher what the problem was, and she let me retake the test on white paper, and this time I got a B+. I do feel the need to clarify at this point that even though it can be inconvenient, synesthesia is not a disorder and it's not a disease. It's just a condition. Some might argue that it's a pretty cool condition. For the most part, I would agree with them, although as we've established, it can sometimes make things difficult. Now, I have a few people who have agreed to do an interview about their synesthesia.
When did you realize that you saw things differently from other people?
Well, it's hard to say for sure. I've known about synesthesia. I've had it at least since I was like 2 years old when I learned to read, but I didn't really think anything of it at the time. I just assumed like, oh, well, 5 is blue. It just is. But eventually I started thinking to myself, yeah, it's a little funny that I see it that way. So I just started asking around when I was maybe like 11 or 12. And quite a few people I know, as it turns out, also have synesthesia, but they see it differently. So.
I've had the same experience. Some of my siblings have synesthesia, and we all have different perceptions of it.
Sister who has it, and she's great. I love her, but she thinks 4 is blue and 5 is red, and I'm sorry, that's inexcusable.
I think 5 is red as well.
Oh, no. 5 is blue.
Is your synesthesia projective or associative?
It's associative then. Whenever I see numbers, I know that they're not the color I think they are, but they kind of feel that way.
Yeah, that's how it is for me as well. Have you ever found Grapheme-Color synesthesia helpful in your life?
It's hard to say. I tend to be pretty good at math, and, I have very strong associations with numbers. So I'd like to think it was probably somewhat helpful. For example, I knew that blue plus yellow equals, black-red. 5 plus 9 is 14.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure exactly how helpful that was as a whole, but by and large, it seemed to do well enough for me when I was learning the Cyrillic alphabet. That made things kind of interesting because the Cyrillic letter V, which is like the equivalent of V in English, for Victor, that is, it's the same shape as a B, in English. Now, B as the letter for me is like a light blue, but the letter V is kind of like a pinkish. So it's a little strange to, you see a letter that sounds one way but looks differently, and it's even stronger when you have synesthesia.
Is it disorienting in any way?
Not really. It does make me step back and think, like, wow, this is quite different. Ultimately, I kind of like the feeling of, what if I'd grown up with that instead? Something I like to think about.
Right. Are there any words or letters that you particularly like or dislike the color of?
Well, I can't really think of any words in particular, but I know at least for numbers, for a long time, I always kind of liked odd numbers more than even ones. And I think I recently figured out why. It was because I think of all the even numbers, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. Then that's, clear, white, red, dark yellow, and orange. That's kind of a one-sided spectrum. It's all on the warm color side, as opposed to the odd numbers, which 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. That's black, green, blue, purple, and light yellow. That's more vivid and interesting to me than than the colors I would get from even numbers. So
fair enough. Yeah. Are you glad that you have synesthesia?
I'd say I am. Yeah. I don't really think it affects me all that much, but the fact that I have it and the fact that I can do stuff like imagine numbers and letters having colors, I think it's kind of cool. I like having it.
I would agree. I think it is kind of cool as well. So the last question I have is, if you had the choice, would you give up your synesthesia?
Now, I don't think I ever would. No, it's one of those things that is a little strange when you explain it, but at the end of the day, I like having it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to answer my questions. I appreciate it a lot.
Absolutely.
Have an awesome day.
So that was that. Thank you to all of them for agreeing to do this interview with me. Next time I'll be talking about auditory visual synesthesia, also known as chromesthesia. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are also looking forward to it. If you are, I'll see you next time. Bye!